Alright, hello Facebook. We are getting ready for another Wichita Paramotor Coast to Coast live show. And there it is.
Welcome to Wichita Paramotor Coast to Coast, where we discuss paramotor stuff with paramotor people about paramotor things. Coming to you from Wichita, Kansas, the air capital of the world. Join us now with your host, Neil Keesley, paramotor instructor and fanatic.
Alright, here we go, folks. So today is April 27th, 2025, and I am lucky to be joined by Jeff Carlson.
Hello, folks. How are you doing today?
How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So I'm really pleased that you came out and joined us.
Yeah.
It was a
Glad
little
to be
bit, yeah, it was a little bit to kind of convince you this would be a you thing. So, anyways, Jeff, we talk about paramotor things with paramotor people about paramotor stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's one of my favorite things to talk about.
yeah, you've
It's
been
one of the
flying.
other reasons I'm here.
Right, you've been flying for a little while.
Yeah, a few years.
So, how many years now?
3.5. So beginning of, June 2021.
Nice. And what are you actually flying right now?
I guess that'd be 4 years, wouldn't it?
Yeah, closer to 4.
Close to 4.
What are you actually flying right now?
Kangook Amaruk on a Luna 2.
Now hold on.
What?
It's not just a regular Amaruk.
Well, yeah, that's true. It is an EFI.
Yeah.
EFI Vittorazi 185.
Right, on the
Yes, sir.
XD, so you're swinging a 140 proud.
Yep, the 140.
So-
Yeah, it's got some oomph in it. Yeah.
Does it?
Oh yeah.
Are
You had a taste.
Yeah, you actually let me fly it.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
pretty.
The only one. So you better count yourself lucky on that one. That was your Christmas present.
Yes, sir. It's pretty zoomy.
Yeah, smooth too.
And that's what I was just going to mention. This thing does not have the Moster middle.
No.
It's just, you press that throttle, man, and it's just as smooth as butter all the way through.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's been good.
So, are you originally from Wichita?
No, I'm from Kansas though. So I originally grew up in Lindsborg,
Lindsborg.
Kansas. Yep.
Okay.
Little Sweden.
Little Sweden.
Yep. So
That's
grew up
just north of us, what, 40 miles?
about an hour.
About an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So between Salina and McPherson.
Now, did you go to high school there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Smoky Valley High School.
Nice. So when did you move to Wichita?
For college. So right after I moved to, basically, right after graduation, I moved here to go to ITT Tech.
Okay, ITT Tech.
Yeah.
That's what got you into computers, or you were already a computer guy before?
I was
that?
already into it. I was playing games, and I wanted to do something with technology. And I was like, I saw a bunch of commercials on TV. I'm pretty sure, and I was like, yeah, let's do that. I didn't even look around. Just like that one.
Gotcha.
So I
Gotcha.
moved into an apartment, and yeah, so I moved here for I was here for about it was the whole 2 years, and then I went around a little bit after that, but
Gotcha.
just the team.
So, what actually do you do for a living right now?
Right now, I'm a programmer, so technically it's software engineer is the title, but I do all sorts of stuff at my company, Spectrum Light. We do custom software for anyone who needs it. So
Nice.
insurance software or whatever you need, trucking, managing their payroll and their bill lading, data entry stuff, all sorts of different things. But we've also done some like manufacturing QA stuff. That's pretty fun.
Okay. You and I were actually messing with the Paramotor app for a little while.
Yeah, a little bit. That was a side project that hasn't amounted to anything. But I think Gaggle has the market kind of cornered on that one.
Yeah.
This one was a little bit more targeted towards training. So maybe one day.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be excited we get that finished, see what we can come up with. But you're right, Gaggle is with all the resources and everything is probably the money.
Yeah.
We all use it.
Yeah, I use it occasionally.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't fly without it. But
I'm pretty basic, I'll be honest.
Well, yeah, I would have to say you're pretty raw in the way you fly, how you fly. Very, very elemental.
You could say that.
You know, you kind of stay to the basics, but you do it very well.
Well, thank you. I try my best.
So, tell me a little bit about your world in finding PPG. How did this happen?
I mean, it was kind of spur of the moment. So in 2021, obviously we all know what was going on. I was bored sitting at home watching YouTube, saw Tucker Gott's videos and went, man, that looks awesome. Like, how can I do that? So I started looking at the Parajet website and I was like, dang, that's expensive. Like 10 grand for a paramotor? What the heck? Okay. So they had to fill out a form for like finding an instructor.
Okay.
So I filled out the form, and oddly enough, I woke up early the next morning and saw an email from Bryant.
Bryant Hummer, both of our instructors.
Yep. He emailed me back the next morning, immediately the next morning. I was up till 2 a.m. whatever, you know, and happened to see the email immediately the next morning. He says, "Hey, we're gonna be out at the field tonight. If you come check it out." I was like, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna go check it out." So I showed up to the field and met Bryant and Mark and some of the other guys that day, and I was hooked as soon as I saw it. So
Yeah, it's.
I think I had my wing ordered within a week or two.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
that
no,
fast.
it was
And your first wing was the Charger 2.
the Charger
right?
2. Yep.
Yeah. I actually grew up on the Charger 1,
Yeah.
and then later got to fly the
You know,
Charger 2.
I don't know that I've ever flown a Charger 1. Maybe once if I have.
Okay, well, I have one.
Oh, you know,
If you-
maybe I'll take it on that.
I will say, you know, a lot of people would probably argue with me, but those two are totally two different wings.
Oh, yeah, I think I agree. I mean, I've flown with a lot of Charger 1s, you know, in the group with my Charger 2, and that wing's a lot faster. And,
Yeah.
like, it'll trim out faster. So, yeah. But
Yeah, but you
it's-
mean the one will turn out faster.
I mean, the 2.
The 2 will turn out faster?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe I was loaded a little harder on it than some of the other guys. I don't know. Chris was.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And you know, I started on a power to fly, and that Charger 1, and it did me pretty good.
Yeah.
Cause your first motor was the Kangook Amaruk.
Yeah, the regular Amaruk with just a plain old Moster 185 on it. It's
Gotcha.
pretty standard, at least for around here.
And you flew that for a couple of years.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had it up until earlier this year. No, I guess it was last summer
Gotcha.
or last fall.
Gotcha. And you've flown a few different motors. I mean, mostly Kangooks, but
Yeah. So actually, have I flown? I'm trying to think if I have flown any other brand. I'll be honest, I don't know if I have.
okay.
Because
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Little plug out to Kangook here.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a great brand. I love it. It's the cages are good because they're modular. I've gone through my fair share of cages.
Yeah.
The netting is easy to replace. You know.
I'd have to say that's one of the things I like best is the netting.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to buy a whole new netting hoop.
And you can do custom red, white, and blue.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I'm pleased with it. I did it myself.
So, again, your first flight was, you said June
June 3rd of 2021.
2021. Tell me what that was like for you.
Well, okay, I'll preface that with my first time like in the air was we were doing towing at that point,
Right.
and so we were out at Kingman Airport, and I remember there was a brief moment the first time I got towed up and I got above, I don't know, 70 feet or something, and I could just see it was you know, springtime, so everything was green, just beautiful, and I just remember caught that glimpse of all the wheat fields, and for a second maybe I just kind of lost everything that was going on and just went, whoa, that's beautiful. And then I was like, oh, I'm flying, okay. And then I forgot that I had legs and landed on my butt.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think you stuck your first one, but every one after that, you did stick.
On that toe, you mean?
Yeah, because I towed with you that day as well.
That's right, yeah. There was a bunch of us out there that day.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was fun.
You know, first taste, and you know, off to the side we're kiting, and I think we had one of the little kiting wings. I can't remember what brand it was at this time, but we had one of the little kiting wings that we were off to the side practicing, and then each person would go through the rotation to get up on the toe.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it was either that time or the time after that was basically your first experience with instructor, being helping instruct.
Yeah,
Or
that
doing
was,
kiting instructions.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. When Bryant looked at me and said, "Hey, go help him do a thing," I was like, "Really? Yay!" I graduated. You know, and you know, you mentioned that whole kiting instruction just kind of blossomed, and it became a real root of my training as well.
Yeah.
Because you know, if
Yeah, absolutely.
you're teaching it, you kind of become more.
Well, you gotta figure out how to explain it.
Yeah.
Then you're like, wait, you gotta think about it more a little bit. And you're like, okay, that makes more sense.
Well,
You're
it's
doing it.
seeing somebody else do it while you give them tutelage kind of narrows in what you're doing as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a skill to figure out how to properly, put something into words that's hard to, because I still would struggle with that in some ways to describe how to, pull the left brake in this specific way. You're doing it wrong,
Right.
and observing it all is that's a skill.
Yeah. I absolutely love teaching.
Yeah, it shows.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, for me, I'd have to say the first 30 to 90 seconds when somebody gets out of the air after their first flight,
Oh,
you know
it's just
me.
butterflies.
I'm up in
Yeah.
their face. I'm absorbing every bit of energy and enthusiasm they have to offer.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
as excited as they am, because it was, you know, a journey together that we took that got them into the air.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, I don't separate myself from each individual student being an instructor. Each one matters just as much as the one before. It doesn't matter if I have a big class or a small class. So, now since we're talking about instruction, what is and we were kind of laughing about this earlier, what is your current rating with the PPG?
It's PPG 1.
PPG
So,
1. with the
I'm just a newbie,
Yeah,
according
yeah.
to
the USPPA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you feel like? You know, because obviously ratings haven't been important to you, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people fly without them. But what's your view on ratings?
I mean, I think it's good to have a bit of a structure, to like kind of have a goal of what things to. It depends on what you want, really, though. Like, if you're just in it to get up in the air and go cruise around, I definitely say get your 1 at least. Like, there's some knowledge there you want to have, make sure you've got all the baselines covered. But honestly, if that's your goal, is to just get up in the air and go cruise, and you don't want to do anything else, then it's really not that important beyond the 1, I would say. I obviously only having the 1 myself, it's hard to say a little bit about the 2 and above that. But I think if you really are serious about doing anything beyond that, especially if you're going to get a DACRO or whatever, which I've dabbled in, you probably should talk to an instructor about doing the 2. And then-
Definitely. Because, for me, I think there's dark areas that without getting formal instruction or going through
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 syllabus, that you don't get, dare I say, intimate with them, because
Sure.
they will quickly get intimate with you, whether you know they're there or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to add to that, for me, I've had a lot of people surrounding me that I've been able to talk to about it. Like Ben and just a lot of guys around to talk through all some of those dark areas with, and kind of and then just touch the edges of them as I'm flying. I didn't jump into it. It took me 2 years before I was really comfortable doing a proper wing over.
Gotcha.
So
That's probably the same for me too. And I'm not a big wing over guy. I do them to demonstrate them, and I do them to pass tests, but that's not really the way I fly.
yeah, I'll do a good one pretty much every flight, but beyond that, I'm like, oof, I got it in. All right, let's just cruise now.
Right. It's almost like something that you want to do each flight just to keep up the skill.
A little bit of that, yeah, but I do enjoy it.
Do you?
Yeah.
You like the G's and the rush?
Yeah. I don't know. There was part of me when I started, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be that guy, but there was in the back of my head, I was like, I know myself well enough that I was like, maybe if I get comfortable, I'll dabble in that.
Right.
So yeah, that's what happened eventually.
Well, and you know, acro is one of those that, you know, we talk about dark areas. There's some really dark areas in acro that can get you hurt pretty quick.
Absolutely.
And you know, consistency is really important.
Yes. Yeah.
With you know, how you do things and what you're doing.
Yeah, you gotta be aware of. I mean, it's really all about energy management. If you don't manage that energy properly, it can be a real bad day, or the last day, depending on what you're talking about.
Right. Now you fly with the reserve?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I've flown with the reserve for at least over a year now. There was a while where I didn't have one, and so actually I started kind of getting towards the wingovers without a reserve, and then at some point I said I need to stop until I get a reserve, and so I just consciously said no, nothing remotely close to acro until I get a reserve on, and that's when I started doing it. Is when I got a reserve.
I think that's good advice.
Yeah, that's definitely a piece of advice I was having. I mean, if you're flying at 20 feet all the time and that's your goal, then reserve's not gonna do you any good.
Right.
But yeah, if you, it's good to fly with one if you go anywhere beyond 100, 200 feet.
Well, and I'll say something about you. Anytime you're doing wingovers and whatnot, you're doing them 300 feet or better.
Oh, I try to at least be 700, 800 or 1,000, and I'll catch myself occasionally. You know, I'll do that last one. I'm like, I'm lower than I should be, even at 300 feet. I don't.
You're not comfortable there.
No, I might. You know, you lose altitude quicker than you realize sometimes. You know, you pull a hard wing over and it just, you're 500 feet lower than you were when you started.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I'm really close to the ground. I should consider being higher next time.
Yeah, and you know, I've done the same thing, and once you finish the wing over and you get the realization of where you're at in space, because that changes very quickly.
Yes.
And your concentration is on the wing, you know, on your movements, on your brake input, and you're not so much you know, absorbing what your exact surrounding is because you're focused on this certain area, and then you realize you're like, oh wow, okay,
Yeah.
I lost 600 feet that fast.
Yep.
You know, and that's why the energy management is so important too, because you build so much.
Yeah. You have to turn out of it, or you can't just let it bubble up, or else you're gonna reverse stall, or it could be real bad. Also, I was going to say, one of the things I always consciously do is consider which way the wind is going, because if I did have to throw my reserve, I don't want to be blown into a forest or something, you know? So
Right.
I always try to be upwind of some field, some area that I would like to land in if I have my reserve, if I have to throw my reserve.
Gotcha. That's a good point. So even in the wingovers and the acro, you were still paying attention to your ground elements.
Yeah, it'd be before really before I start doing it, because you know, there's a lot going on right at the moment that, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go that way, so that if I have to throw my reserve over there, I'll be going this way and I'm gonna land in this field.
Gotcha.
Just to be aware of where I'm at.
And staying away from
before-
power lines, so you don't do that stuff over power lines.
Right. Yeah.
And,
All that kind of stuff, ground awareness before you start doing that.
yeah, the field with the one cow in it.
Yeah.
Because we
Or
all,
the horde of them. You know?
right. I think when it's a group of them, it's better because it's actually cows. But you know that one cow in a field is probably not a cow; it's a bull.
Right. Yeah. The one with horns on it.
Yeah, he's not going to be your friend. So, tell me a little bit about some of the equipment you've flown. So, you've flown quite a few wings.
Yeah, the wings is more of what I've dabbled into. I love flying a new wing if I get the opportunity. Again, I don't think I've flown that many paramotors. Like I have owned 3. So I've owned the original Kangook Amaruk with the Moster 185. Then I had the same frame basically, well, exactly with the Corsair Black Devil, which we'll talk about later. That was
We
the
are going to
Lacerator.
talk about that, the Lacerator.
And then this current one is the Amaruk XD with the EFI on it. So those are my 3 paramotors I've had. I started with the Charger 2 wing. I currently fly the Luna 2, and probably my favorite wing of non-standard wings is the APCO Hybrid. That thing is amazing. Just because, I don't know, it's hard to describe. You've flown it.
Yeah, it's
slow,
very unique.
But it's
nimble.
It's nimble, but like muted.
Yes.
Because you can't like, it kind of goes where it wants after you give it input.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but
well, and you can reverse that thing in 1 mile an hour.
yeah, it's insane. Yeah,
It's
if
super
it's
light.
like cold out or whatever, and you want to minimize your wind, that's the wing to fly. Plus, it's just a blast. I don't know. There's something about going slower than everybody that's surreal.
Well, and that wing too, it has such a good feel, even at the slow, even at the slower speed. That wing is very responsive, in my opinion. It is a little muted, like you're saying, but when you dig into it, it goes. And the launch is, anything that I've flown is not comparable to how easy that thing launches. Now, I will say the APCO F3 will pop up with.
Yeah, the F3 is a really good wing. I had to get used to it because I've flown it a fair number of times, and the first time or two I flew it, I was like, man, I don't know, it's almost too fast on that, because I did a touch and go, and it just wanted to go to the ground, and didn't give me any chance to not have it do that. And
yeah, it's a big check when that wing comes up, because it'll surge over you quite quickly. I mean, it has snappy inflation.
Yeah. The other wing that was fun, I flew once because you had it on demo, was the Colorado 2. That wing was pretty awesome.
We had a blast on that wing.
Yeah. I don't know that I would want it as my daily though.
No, it was pretty speedy.
It's speedy, and it's like, it's a performance wing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably the spiciest wing I've flown, I think. I
would agree. I don't know. I flew the.
Oh, actually, I take that back. Runner XC. I believe it was the Soul Runner XC.
Yeah.
I flew. That thing is fast.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to fly it.
I'm telling you, I was sprinting when I took off.
Really?
Yeah. That's the fastest I've run on any takeoff or landing, I think.
At full throttle.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I don't skip on the throttle.
No, you don't.
That's one of the things on there is advice for new people, and one of the things I've told numerous new people is you got to commit when it's the right time, and because that's sort of what I learned inherently was, if you're gonna go, you got to go. You can't not at a certain point.
Yeah. Committing to the full throttle is very important, and that's one of the reasons we do all the simulator work.
Oh, I think that's one of the best things you've implemented in your training is the simulator.
Yeah, it makes a difference, and for the preparedness, a lot of students, we know what happens is they go slow. The first flight, the throttle's intimidating. This is the first time, other than standing in the field, that they've really gone to full throttle running, because that's hard to simulate. Yeah. And then they hit that throttle, and it's a little intimidating for them, so they don't run. And a lot can go wrong. The longer you're on the ground in the launch, the more chance that you have to make mistakes or have something go awry. Yeah, because everything kind of normalizes once the wing picks you up. Yes, absolutely. As long as everything's stable, you're keeping on throttle. It sort of just, it'll correct a lot of things. And then the other thing. I've had some odd close calls where it's like, I'm too far in the brakes or something. Just stay on the throttle. Yep. Well, and not only that, they don't commit to the throttle and they get into the seat too early because they start feeling the lift. Yep. And then next thing you know, it's a prop or a butt landing or something like that. So I agree with you. Committing to the throttle is super, super important. So out of all those wings, are you still saying the APCO Hybrid's your absolute favorite? Well, like I said, it's my favorite non-standard. I still really like the Luna. I don't know. I've flown a lot of wings. Obviously, I'm biased towards it because I've flown it for 3 years now. But it's just a solid wing. I realize, it's fast. Great with turbulence.
Yeah, it's good with turbulence. It's not as efficient, I'm told, but I made up for that with an EFI.
Right. Yeah, the EFI is, you want to talk about efficiency.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure one day I got an hour and a half on 6 liters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
I was impressed. Yeah, I was like, dang, do I still have gas in?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
I had 6 liters. Remember when I motored out after our flight, we went up to
Yeah.
Garden Plain. I'm on a Parajet with 185 Maverick with 6 liters, and I didn't make it home. And we flew for 50, 55 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was a little over an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you were up longer than I was because you were waiting on me.
That's true. That's usually the case, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
No, but hey, to your credit though, you're always consistent about your checklist and your procedures. I sometimes I have to tell myself to not rush because I'll just be like, I got here, it's time to fly. So I've got to consider that and slow myself down occasionally and say, all right, let me check a couple extra things, make sure nothing's awry.
Well, and I will say, the consistency of doing my pre-flights, my checklist and stuff like that has really kept me out of some crap.
Yeah.
I've had my share of close calls, minor and big, like I think everybody does at some point in progression.
Yeah.
But, I've motored out less. My motor outs are directly something because I, didn't put enough gas, or I'm flying a Bellini 190 and I run it too rich, or too lean actually.
Yeah.
Blow a hole in the piston.
Yeah,
I'll have to talk.
Oh, I remember I buzzed you in the field a couple times. I was like, what are you doing, man? You went like this.
Yeah, I've got no motor.
Oh, okay, all right. Sorry.
Well, and I was in a climb. I had just foot tagged the road, and I was in a climb coming out of it, and I got super lucky where that thing let go on me.
Yeah.
Because I had enough altitude to make decisions. And it was like somebody hit the kill switch.
Yeah.
There was no spit, there was no sputter, there was no indication that I'm in the problem. It right now quit.
Yeah.
And I was probably about 250, 300 feet.
That's a good altitude for a motor out.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought about if it would have happened to me literally 30 seconds earlier, like if I was on the road, I probably could have, flared that out and landed it from
if you're
drag.
thinking about it or prepared, you can make that happen, but it's going to be a lot more of a split second type of decision or type of scenario there.
Well, and if I was at 100 feet, it would have probably been a bad deal. I had tree lines I had to get over.
Sure. Yeah, depending on where you're, if you're just in a big open field at 100 feet, probably okay.
Right.
But yeah, if you're trying to cross trees or power lines, you gotta be careful.
I had obstacles and terrain to deal with, and that was a little intimidating. By the way, everybody, that scratching sound is one of my giant turtles downstairs.
Oh, he's having a good time.
Yes, because we are in the mansion here, again, Wichita, Kansas. I'll tell you overall, I've really enjoyed flying with you.
Likewise.
And, we have a lot of fun doing this stuff. So let's talk about something. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on the show today. Yep, there it is. So you had picked up, you had actually bought it from me. It was the Kangook Amaruk Gen 1 with a Corsair Black Devil.
Might have been the Gen 2, but either way.
I think it was the Gen 1. You might be right.
I just remember considering at one point I had a 1, 2, and a 3, so that's all.
Okay.
I'm not gonna argue.
You might be right. No, you might be right. Thinking about it, it might have to cut out on the frame.
Either way.
But, so we, with Bryant, the other guys, Chris, Ben, whatnot, we've all kind of flown together and stayed as a tight group. A family, if you will. Well, what was it, 23, 2000?
Yeah, it would have been September 23 at Endless Foot Drag.
Endless Foot Drag. So, you know, weather slated to be absolutely gorgeous the whole week. We go in for, it wasn't quite 10 days, was it?
No, it was basically it was Sunday to Sunday, but I think it's effectively the length of it.
Well, I think it started that Saturday and ended on the next Sunday, so it would have been like 8 days. So, anyways, that's in Fredonia, Kansas. That's one of the largest fly-ins for PPG. You know, it's probably, I'd say it's probably in the top 10 for attendance.
Sure, I don't know. I've never been to any other fly-ins just because I've had the opportunity. So.
Gotcha. It's, you know, and we get vendors, you know, there's a lot of people that come out. People come from all over the U.S. to come out to Fredonia and do the Endless Foot Drag. So I don't know how to really build this up too much.
I mean, I can just tell you my side of the story first, if that works.
Well, we'd been flying for a couple of days. I want to say this was like a...
Pretty sure it was Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning. So we'd been flying the night before. I put up a 10 by 10 tent with sides.
Yep.
You know, one of the pop-ups. And we knew there was going to be a little rain the next morning. So we put all of our motors. There was 4 or 5 motors in there. There was Bryant's motor, my motor.
At least 5. There might have been 6 or 7. I think we had
your motor, Marco's motor.
I had both of mine there at that one.
Gotcha. So we put these motors into this tent, and we go to bed. And what was it? I don't know, at 5, 6 a.m.
No, it was actually mid-morning. Because I remember I was actually on the phone with my mom.
Okay.
And it was like 9:30 or something.
Was it that late?
Yep. It sure was. It burned in my memory.
Probably more than mine because
there's one part of that's burned in your memory. We'll get to that.
Yeah, it clearly burned. I'll never forget. So we, go back to the setup here. So a storm comes rolling through. We don't really get any of the morning flights. And if anybody's been to Kansas, the storms are angry.
Yeah, they can be very angry.
We're in Tornado Alley and they can pick up very quick. Winds can happen very, very fast. So it's raining, the wind is picking up. I'm in my bus. You're across the runway from me, staying in my motorhome.
Yep.
So, I look out the window and I tell the wife, I said, oh my gosh, the wind's getting pretty heavy. I'm afraid I'm going to lose the tent. So I start putting on shoes and getting a coat and everything. I look out the window again and the tent is gone. So I told the wife, I said, tent is gone, I'm on my way out. And our equipment's getting wet and whatnot. And then...
So cut to my version or my parallel timeline there. So I was talking to my mom actually on the phone and just lay in bed, hanging out, waiting for the rain. And I looked outside because, I'm like, it's windy, it's crazy. And I saw the same thing. I'm like, man, this tent is just going. I'm like, I need to do something about this. I'm like, all right, Mom, I'll call you back or something. So I don't even know if I put my sandals on. I think I just ran outside in my bare feet, my shorts.
Yeah.
And so when I was in the motorhome, the tent was there, blowing around like crazy. I go out, I round the front of the motorhome, and the first thing I see is the tent is gone. Just it's 100 feet away already.
Right.
So within the span of a minute, that had happened, and so the first thing I saw after that was my paramotor with the Lacerator, which is the
Corsair.
With the prop spinning, and it was such a short amount of time that my first reaction was, I gotta stop that prop, and so it was. The front of it was this way, the wind's coming from this direction, so it's just full blast on the back of the prop.
And this isn't running, this is freewheeling.
Freewheeling on the clutch, spinning backwards, and it's probably, I think it's going a couple thousand RPM.
Oh.
It's got to be going 1,000 or 2,000 RPM. Like you can't see it.
It's a blur.
Yeah. So of course, the first thing I do, I gotta stop this prop, and I put my hand right on the edge of the tip of that propeller. It was a 2-blade, and I got hit twice, right here in the palm and on the middle of my middle finger, in the fat of the finger. And I felt it, but I didn't feel it, and I was like, what just happened? Like it's basically the first thing I thought was, what did I just do? So I went back into the camper real quick, and so I started freaking out a little bit, minor panic attack. So I'm like,
Because you never actually stopped the prop.
oh, nope. There was no stopping it like that. It was still going. So I immediately, of course, as soon as that happened, I forgot anything else, and I was looking at my hand. And so I run over to Leo's bus after realizing, so I went over and I banged on your door and I said, I fucked up.
Yeah. So my side of this. So I'm pulling on my shoes. I'm getting my coat on, and I hear a bang at the bus, and I just walked up towards the front and I looked out, and I will never forget this. This is an active storm. It is dumping rain. It is blowing like crazy, lightning, and behind you this huge flash of lightning. This was like out of a horror movie. And you are standing there holding your hand, and you are dripping blood. Your white t-shirt is covered.
It was blue, actually.
Was it blue?
I still have it. It was actually a Tucker Got shirt.
Was it really?
Yeah.
It's covered in blood, and you have this look on your face of panic. I mean, you were.
Yeah, it was real.
It was, and it was like something, some cinematographer had set up this scene to give the best impact in a horror movie. All we needed is, a scary soundtrack. And I hear you say, bang on the bus. I've effed up. And it's bad. And I crank the handle and I open the bus, and you step in and you are shaking. You are dripping in blood. And, I think I got a rag or a t-shirt. We got something on your hand.
Yeah.
We got you sat down in one of the bus seats up front.
I think it was the driver's seat, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
Started getting you calmed down. Cause, there's,
Yeah,
like
I'm
I
usually
said,
pretty calm, so.
yeah, you're a pretty level dude, but you were not level at that moment.
Nope, not at that moment.
And on this video, I might actually put some photos that I've got of the injury and the aftermath with
Put
your
some
giant,
graphical warnings on that.
right, with your giant taped fingers and whatnot after you came from the hospital. But we started assessing how bad it was. It was deep, and there was a lot of blood. And we kind of decided that maybe we ought to call EMS. So we got the call into EMS, and as this is happening, we're starting to tone down a little bit. We're calming down. Things are, getting more into perspective on what actually happened, cut wise.
Yeah.
And we get you calmed down. Now, what are your thoughts as you're starting to reel through this?
I mean, I was probably just thinking about how much of an idiot I am, at that moment. Like, what did I do? God, I'm such a retard, like, why did I do this?
Why did you stick your hand in a spinning
like,
prop?
Like, because I've said this numerous times, you've heard me say it, if I would have had one more second, I would have not done it.
Yeah, step back and
I
kind of
thought about it.
Yeah, figured out another solution to get it to stop.
Or just said, okay, it's gonna be fine. It's not going anywhere. The paramotor's not gonna blow away, So at this point, if that happened again, I would just watch it. I would just stand there and watch it. It's just a paramotor. It'll
Right.
dry out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've gotten them wet before.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say like what. Beyond that, I don't know if I was thinking much else. It's like, what does this mean? I'm a programmer. I was still a programmer at that point, so I'm like, what did I just do to my, you know, can I type still, you know, that was later on after I'd gone to the hospital and stuff. I come back and I'm like, can I even, what is this going to do to my typing, my career? Luckily it didn't affect it too much.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, you know, so we get calmed down. I think I decided to go ahead and grab one of the vehicles and take you to. We'd already called EMS, but I think I decided to go ahead and load you up and take you to.
Well, so I think the way that went down is the EMS showed up, and by the time they showed up, I was like, okay, it's not quite as bad as I thought it might be, because we called right away.
We did.
And so I, you know, kind of got the blood wiped away from the wound, so I could see the wound, and it wasn't gushing anymore. You know, on your hand, it kind of, it's not, it wasn't gushing anymore, so I could see it, and I was like, okay, well, I don't want to pay for a ambulance bill. Why don't we just drive?
Yeah.
So they come there, and I sign the waiver that says, you know, I don't need assistance or whatever the paperwork is that they, you know, declined. That's what it was. I declined the ride, and then they, so we got in your vehicle and followed them back to the hospital, which was very good because they gave us an escort effectively.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the paramedic too took a look at it and was like, yeah, let's just get you there. I don't think you're in any life-threatening,
Right.
you know, situation. And like you'd said, the blood had kind of backed off.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot in the beginning.
Yeah.
And the blood had kind of backed off, and you know, it gotten a little more manageable, both mentally and physically. You know, and we wrapped your hand up pretty good. So we head to the hospital, and was it your wallet that I had to go back for?
Oh, I think so, maybe.
Yeah, we got
By
you.
the time you come back, they were done.
Yeah, that blew my mind. And it's only what, 15, not even 15, 10 minutes
Yeah, it was
both directions.
10 at most. Yeah.
So we got you in there, they started cleaning it up. I took a few pictures, you know, to go back and show everybody. And then, cause the whole runway at Foot Drag was a buzz because of the ambulance.
Yeah, the
coming
ambulance
out.
showing up.
Because they came in with sirens.
Yeah, everyone knew.
Yeah.
Something happened.
Yeah, and so we got you there to the emergency room. They checked you in. They got you in the back right away. And again, shout out to Fredonia Hospital. They were above and beyond.
Yeah, they're great.
You know, really nice, and they dealt with your pain. They dealt with, you know, the situation. Started getting the wound cleaned out, and then I think one of the nurses needed info or your ID or something like that.
Maybe so. I don't.
And we had left in such a hurry. I had to go back. I know I had to go back to
Yeah.
retrieve something. I think it was your wallet.
I think you were gonna give me some clothes too.
Yeah, I think that was.
So I was like, I'm in bloody clothes, you know.
Yeah.
Probably change.
Almost boxer shorts. And so I went back, and when I came back, you're like, oh, I'm done. You know, I was like, what, really? And you showed me the stitches, and they've got you all wrapped up.
Yeah.
And you got such an awesome nickname that I gave you.
Oh, yeah. I kind of forgot about that, honestly.
You know, I'll have to post some pictures, but you had this large bandage. I think you had 2 fingers taped together, or was it just the one?
I'm trying to remember now. Did they have it taped? They
Well,
might
I
have.
know there was a bunch of gauze. I've got pictures
Yeah.
somewhere.
No, they didn't tape it together because I'm pretty sure that it was the next day, which I don't think I replaced anything yet. It was just big on one finger.
So after that, you still flew at EFD.
Yep, I sure did. Yeah, 56 hours.
Is
That
that-
number, yep.
So it was 2.5 days,
Yep.
and then you got back in the air.
Yeah, I there's actually a kind of funny story regarding that, or subsequent flight. So the first flight after that was 56 hours after, and so I put a big fat glove on it. You know, I tried the day before, and I was like, let me put my motor on and just see how my hand feels. and I called it off because I felt it too much, you know.
Pressure.
Yeah, the pressure of the wound. I was like, I'm just not going to do it. I don't feel comfortable. But the next day, I tried again and put a big fat glove on it. You know, I put my motor on. I was like, all right, I think this is good. You know, I don't feel terrible about it. You know, and then so I was like, okay, how can I use the brake without any fingers, or you know, without like grabbing it?
And
So
let's say you're also your hand was the left one you injured.
Yeah.
And you were right hand
throttle. Yeah. So so I still have perfect throttlability. It's just doing a reverse. Because I used my left hand to pull the reverse up. So I was like, I'm not comfortable doing a reverse. But I was able to pull off a forward. Nobody helped me, by the way. I did that all on my own. That first flight afterwards.
I think we helped you set up your wing,
I don't think so.
but no.
Maybe the wing. That I don't remember that part. But I remember as far as like most everything I did myself, and I was like. But yeah, I just put the brake toggle around my wrist like this, and just you know just actuated the brake like that. So I just got up in the air and just flew for I don't know 15 minutes. I was like, that's all I needed. I just needed to get back.
Because you were dying. You were watching us go fly, and you were eating your heart out.
Yeah.
Because you're at EFD, and now
First time I've been.
Yeah, first time, and now you can't fly. And now I will mention too, at EFD the next morning, they made you part of the pilots meeting.
I think it was actually because the next morning I slept through. I think I didn't really participate in anything that next day, but I think it was the second day afterwards. One of the I forget his name.
Landon.
No, it was I don't remember this guy's name, but he came up and said, hey. He pulled me on his golf cart and let me drive around, and he's like, yeah, we'd like to have you just talk about it a little bit in the pilots meeting, so I did that.
Yeah, and that was super educational. I mean, this, you know, one of my points to talking about this is not only the injury, but the education behind it.
That's the reason.
You know, don't try to stop a spinning prop. If anybody else gets in this situation where a prop is freewheeling, do not try to stop it with your hand.
Yeah.
You know, maybe an object, or I think we talked to Brian about it later, and he said, you know, wad up a shirt or something like that and put it at the hub.
Yeah, you still gotta be very careful though, because I think even if you did that, if the paramotor isn't, it's like, okay, so the other thing about that scenario is, in any normal scenario, if it was by itself, it would have just blown over.
Yes.
But they were locked together. We had so many paramotors in that they were locked together. So that was one of the other setup reasons for that even being a consideration. But
So the other paramotors in front of it were holding it up.
yeah. But I was thinking even trying to get on that hub, you can still get yourself in a bad situation. You know, if you push on it, it tries to fall over, and then the prop's coming up into your hand. Like, you still got to be very careful with that.
Very vigilant.
That's only if you absolutely need to. I'm just gonna recommend anyone, if you're in that scenario, just leave it. It's just property. It's not worth any injuries.
I'd agree. And two, again, we're live on Facebook, so if anybody has any questions or anything like that, I've actually got the comments here, so I'll be able to see your comments, and you know, we can address them directly with Jeff. So let's talk about you know, again, the injury. What actually did you end up cutting any tendons? Did you?
No tendons, luckily. At least I think I could see the tendon on my finger.
Oh, goody.
But yeah, that was lovely. But no major damage really. I still have full motion in my finger. The only thing that I really have is a pretty good numbness on the side of my middle finger.
So a little bit of nerve damage.
Yeah, mostly nerve damage.
Gotcha.
And it was 12 stitches. I'm pretty sure it was 8 on my palm and 4 on my finger.
On your finger.
Something like that, yeah. It was 12.
So how long did it take to get the stitches pulled? Like, tell me a little bit about your recovery.
I mean, honestly, it was very smooth. I'm pretty sure I took all the stitches out. They said 10 days, and I think I left them in for an extra day or two just to be safe. And I was like, I'm not going back and paying them to pull stitches out. I can do that myself.
You're a raw dude. I
Yeah,
have to say that.
yeah.
You know, the way you fly, the way you live, you're a pretty raw guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we didn't mention this, but I grew up on a farm, and it probably has something to do with it. You know, so there's something about that growing up. I've noticed with people in general is you have a connection somehow with, I don't know how to describe it other than there's some sort of a connection with like the earth. I don't know. But yeah.
A little more, like I said, elemental.
Yeah, sure.
You're more in tune with yourself. Because one thing I love about you is you know your limits and you know your strengths, and you will maximize both. You won't get outside your limits, and you'll bring your strengths right up to that nth degree. So you got the stitches out of it.
Yeah, 10, 11 days, something like that.
Okay.
So it wasn't really that long. I mean, there was the wound. I was dealing with the wound for a couple weeks, but I mean, beyond that, you know, I used some super glue to keep it kind of pinched together to make sure it had the best chance of healing, the surface healing.
You super glued it.
I sure did. Yeah.
That's my boy.
That's what it's for, right?
So basically a couple of weeks, and you were back to.
Now there was several months of like it didn't have full motion. You know, like it was swollen up for a while, a little bit. So
Yeah, I remember your finger was like a sausage.
yeah. So, but beyond the swelling, that kind of like normal wound stuff. Once that all healed, it was sore, of course. So once I got it kind of partially from not moving for that long, very much. But you know, so it's, I think within 2 to 3 months, it was basically pretty much fully healed to what it is right now. I might have a little bit more feeling in it than I did at that point because the nerves
Gotcha.
are slowly growing back. But
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if I had this nerve damage for the rest of my life.
Yeah, neither would I. I mean, at least you kept the finger.
Yeah, well, dude, it could have been so much worse.
Oh yeah.
I could have lost. I mean, frankly, I could have lost the whole hand.
Yeah.
Or
Because
at least it could have been real messed up.
Because, I didn't see it, but I understand the Kansas storms because I've been here for a little while. Everybody knows I'm originally from Nevada. We get storms, but it's usually lots of thunder and lots of rain, resulting in flash floods.
Mm.
Here, it's windy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
These gust fronts on these storms can, go excess of 100 miles an hour. And
It's pretty extreme, but yeah.
it's been recorded.
Yeah.
I mean, and higher. But that day, I think we were dealing with 50 and 60 mile an hour
Probably
gusts.
so, yeah.
And that because Bryant and Marco, actually, after you had got injured, they're the ones that dealt with the equipment
Yes.
and got it inside Marco's trailer. And we'll bring Marco on at some point, and I hope to have Hummer with Kangook Amaruk on. He's got a lot of cool things going on, and
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about that. But those two, literally in their underwear, went out, secured the equipment, got the tent. The tent was trashed. I mean,
Yeah.
it broke in,
It's
but
garbage.
they got it off the runway. They got the equipment into Marco's trailer and everything, dealt with while I was dealing with you. And the injury, again, I will never forget the flash of lightning behind you and you holding your hand and the look on your face and the blood literally just flying down in the wind. It was hitting the glass.
Yeah.
Of the bus door.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, Texas Chainsaw Massacre via paramotor. And, I can only imagine how fast that prop was going. Out at the field, I've, because my hangar doesn't have a super lot of room, so when we get in there, we move paramotors around.
Yeah.
We'll put them out onto the field, the wind's still blowing a little bit, and they'll get the prop wheeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, 10 miles an hour, a 50 mile an hour gust. I mean, it was pretty intense.
It was moving.
So, I'm glad that you didn't lose any actual body parts.
Yes.
A
A little bit of blood,
Yeah,
but
a little bit. There was a lot of blood, bro.
you know, grand scheme of things.
But overall, you know, the injury, you learned a lot of lesson. You're able to share that story and, you know, help others not make the same mistake.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you've healed up for the most part.
Oh yeah.
So the big takeaway from
No, I
it
just
is
tell you
you've-
when I defended myself from a ninja.
Oh, gotcha. Because that was probably like a samurai sword the way it was moving. So overall, you just ended up with some scarring and a little numbness in a part of your finger.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, super lucky.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a crazy situation. So I've actually ended up back with the Lacerator.
Indeed.
And it will forever have that name.
Yes.
And then with your setup, with your brake wrapped around your arm and your giant glove.
So part of that, actually, I was going to tell you, tell these folks. I think it was the next day after the first time I flew after that, right? So I still had the issue. I didn't want to do a reverse. Well, it was reverse wind the next evening.
Yeah.
Was it the morning or evening? I think
It was the next evening. I know what you're getting ready to lead to.
Yeah.
So,
So I was, I think it was the Lacerator I was flying.
yes.
So I didn't care. It's like, I'll fly it. But yeah, so I tried to do a forward when I should have been doing a reverse, just because I had this issue with my hand and I didn't want to be pulling on it with.
Yeah, it was
reverse.
7-8 mile an hour.
Oh, at least I think the gust probably I'd say gust. It was coming up to probably 10. I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But I just timed it wrong. Whatever. I pulled it up and it just went, whoop, pulled me off my feet, and I landed right on my side.
Yeah.
I didn't hurt myself at all, but I smashed the left side of my cage.
Yeah, and I actually didn't see it. Everybody told me about it. And I walked up there at the aftermath, and you were with, I think, Ron Turan and Landon March.
Yeah, I think I think they both witnessed it.
Yeah, and they were basically picking you up off the ground and getting you set back up and getting your wings shut down. Because that's about when I walked up, is after you had already went down. So you just basically did a reverse and timed it wrong, or did a forward
Yeah.
and timed it wrong in reverse conditions.
Yeah.
Because you were trying to minimize the
Further bodily
effects,
damage.
Yes, the effects of launching a reverse on your wound.
Yeah.
But all of us lovingly called you Flying Finger Boy.
Mostly you, but yes.
You go flying by, and you got this hand with this glove, and I mean it was this big monstrosity into your brakes around your wrist, and I mean that was it was spectacular, but from start to finish, and the fact
That's one word for it.
the fact that you were able to go through the whole situation with the humility that you did and still be able to fly and not ruin your because you were primed for a long time for EFD. You're like, I'm going this year, and we had worked out going together and whatnot. So that was a lot of fun, and again an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, obviously I won't forget it either. It's kind of a reminder all the time.
Yeah, it's almost like it's drawn on you or something.
Yeah.
So, getting to other things here, what's your big PPG takeaway? You've been flying, like you said, almost 4 years. You're into acro. You've flown many wings. You've flown in a lot of different conditions. And you, from what other than the lacerator incident, you haven't had much malady in the sport. You've crunched a cage or two, you've broken a prop here and there, but you really haven't hit that danger zone, have you?
No, not really, because I know like you've hit like a gust front. I've never been through anything like that. Trying to think if there's any other. I mean, I've had my fair share, like you said, of I hit the ground while I was in landing or whatever, and my cage came and hit the prop or whatever, and but nothing too crazy beyond that.
Okay, so again, what's your big takeaway? What's the meaning of PPG for you?
The meaning? Oh man, you're getting deep.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you said takeaway and then meaning. To me, those are two different things. So the thing that came to mind, you said takeaway, I guess, and this is towards any new people or even if you're not new, just take it slow. There's no reason to get in a hurry. If it's questionable, if there's there's always another day.
I agree.
So I'm after flying for a while. I flew probably average 2 to 3 times a week in the first year. Well, in season at least, when I was doing it.
Now we've had some pretty cold flights together.
Yeah. Now cold is one thing, but I'm saying like if it's borderline wind or there's a storm 80 miles away or anything like that. There's no reason to push it, if you're not entirely comfortable with it or if you're unsure. That's it. I mean, there's always another day.
Yeah, I agree. And then let's we just talked about takeaway, so it's different for you. What's the meaning of PPG for you? What do you, what is your big thing that you get out of it? What what have you gone through to make PPG mean what it does for you?
I mean, the main thing, it's just an escape in a way. Like, I just love flying. I've always wanted to fly in some way, I guess. So just to be able to do that, it's a very freeing experience. I don't know, I guess I haven't really attributed a larger meaning to it other than it's just a super enjoyable thing to do, and like I've met a lot of cool people doing it. So that's maybe one thing is, like you said, we've built a family around it. So being able to go hang out with the guys at the field and just shoot the crap, before after we're flying, para-waiting sometimes. That's
right. We have as much fun leading up to and after flights as we do in the air.
Yeah, a lot of times, yeah. So then, it makes some of those shorter flights even sweeter.
Oh, absolutely.
You get up there in the butter air for 20, 30 minutes, and it's just like, it just makes your day, just solves it.
Yeah, good word. Just solves your whole day.
Yeah.
So, what are your PPG goals? What are you hoping to achieve with PPG? How far are you going? Are you going to get crazy into the acro?
I don't know that I'm going much further, frankly. I'm also kind of take it by, go with the flow, play it by ear. That's the thing I was looking for, type of guy. So I don't have any huge like goals or plans or whatever. I mean, the only thing maybe is to get a setup where I could go travel and like work remotely while I'm in a place where I can fly when I can fly. It's like go to some of these fly-ins. Like that'd be the only goal, so to speak, that I really have considered.
So more vacation flying, more travel flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as progression, I don't care to get any crazier. The occasional wing over is as much adrenaline as I really need. From this sport.
So no wing touches, no loopy loops.
Dude, wing touches make me nervous still.
Oh
like,
yeah. I've never done one, and I have. To be honest,
you haven't?
No, I mean tip touch, but I'm talking. I'm talking where you drag your wingtip on the ground or to cross the top of the water.
No. We're not doing that. That's never gonna happen.
You and I have done tip touch.
Yeah,
so.
that's what I was gonna say. I'm pretty sure we have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
so
doesn't make me as nervous as long as the
I'm saying
conditions.
that makes me a little nervous still, just because I don't know, being in proximity, like it's relatively, if you both are competent pilots and you know what you're doing, it's relatively
And
safe to do.
conditioning. It's
And the conditioning,
conditional.
yeah.
I mean, if you're in
It's
heavier
pretty smooth.
winds, yeah, it's got to be nice and smooth and
Laminar at least.
you know, you feel it. You know, you guys get close together, you get a little closer, things are still working well, you get a little closer.
Helps if you have a similar wing.
It does.
I'm so much faster than a lot of the guys we're flying with.
Yeah.
I'm like holding brakes just to fly at the same speed, and I don't like doing that.
Trimmed in and
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm trimmed into one faster, so
yeah. Well, Luna's a pretty speedy little wing.
yeah, I like it.
I think the last time, or I think the only time you and I touched, I was on a trike with Charger 1, and you were on the Luna 2
I think so,
on
yeah.
the
That sounds
EFI.
right. Yeah.
And it was just a quick, you know, little, and then we backed off, and you went back off doing what you doing, and I went and did what I do.
Yeah, I remember the first time it was Ben came up to me. I was actually out at Anthony, Kansas, and he was over here, and I'm just like steering to the left slowly, and we're just turning a circle because I'm trying to fly away from him. Like I knew what was happening, but I'm like,
Get away!
Is this okay? He's like, you do it. So he came up and bumped me.
Yeah. On the tip touch, it's surprising just the little touch there, how much effect it actually has in the wing.
You can feel it quite a lot.
Yeah. Something I was going to ask you about. What do you think your weaknesses are when it comes to? Now, again, I'm going to tell everybody you are an extremely strong pilot. Your skills are set in. You're good at reading conditions, and what you do very, very well.
Thank you.
So, but what would you think, you know, stuff you'd rather work on? What's your weaknesses when it comes to PPG?
I think honestly, part of the reason it is my advice is because it's my weakness. It's like slowing down a little bit, and even pre-flight type stuff. You've seen me go. Sometimes I just go, and I'm like, I probably should have checked a couple more things. That's one of my weaknesses, I'd say, is that. I mean, that's pretty simple. I don't know. I don't consider this often, so I was scrounging for what else I could say. You know, I'm sure I got some, just like everybody, but I don't know.
So basically, the stuff you want to work on is slowing down and being a little more attentive
To my gear.
to your gear, your pre-flights.
Yeah.
Because you're good with conditions and weather. I've seen it. I mean, and you honestly can fly in about anything, you know, reasonable.
Yeah.
That is, you know, I remember a flight you and I took. We were in Leon, Kansas, and this event's actually getting ready to come up again. I believe it's May 11th. We were at the Quail Creek Farms.
Yeah. It was a fun little deal.
That was a good time. And then we went and flew in some pretty rowdy, pretty, as we call it, textured air. And you know, you handle it like a boss. You know, there's those pilots, ones that are okay with turbulence and ones that are not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm generally on the not side. I don't like a lot of turbulence.
I don't like it. It's just, you know, if it's within the zone of like it's safe, then I'm like, I'll deal with it. It doesn't bother me really as much. But there is a level where it's like it's just not fun anymore.
Right.
Because it's just knocking you around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I mean at that point you're like, well, if I'm not having fun, why would I risk, you know, that? Because it becomes less safe the more turbulent it is.
Yeah.
Depending on your wing too, but you know, it's like, so what, if I'm not having fun, why am I up here?
Right. Because
So-
it's like the old cliche, it's better to be on the ground wishing you were in the air
Absolutely.
than being in the air wishing you were on the ground.
Yeah.
For me, turbulence, I tense up. And, you know, I kind of white knuckle.
Sure.
And, you know,
Sure.
because you're waiting for those big hits or catching that surge or, you know, the element of turbulence you might not be aware of.
Yeah.
And what happens, literally, my back, my shoulders, everything starts to ache because I'm so tensed up and white knuckled. You know, and let me remind everybody, this is not Florida turbulence. This is not California turbulence. This is not Texas turbulence. This is Kansas turbulence. We have some of the richest air, you know, when it comes to texture in the country. You know, flying out here, you know, we've all talked about it. You know, if you can fly in Kansas, you can fly pretty much anywhere. You know, I remember we had those guys, I don't know if you remember this, we were still at Teamer Field, and we had those guys come out from Arizona, and we had a mild day for us.
Yeah, I think I do remember. I think I was probably off flying, but I remember hearing about it.
Yeah, they had a little struggle, and they're like, you know, are you sure this is safe? Oh yeah, we're flying it all the time. Look, see, you know. And these guys
are doing wing overs, you know.
right. These guys are doing their best to get off the ground.
Yeah.
And you know, so you know, turbulence here is a little bit different. And you know, we've got degrees of it. We've got rolly, we've got sharp. You know, where it's
those are the ones that I don't like.
Yeah.
The rolly stuff is. Yeah.
I'm okay with the rolly stuff. It's the sharp and the snappy stuff that I don't like. You know, I've dealt with a couple of collapses in that kind of air. I was out with one of my students, David. We're getting ready to launch. He's having a hard time getting off the ground. I jump up into the air. I'm on the Luna because I got a Luna 2 as well. And I get up in the air. I get 300 feet. And, you know, again, like, you don't feel the collapse, you feel the reinflation.
Yep.
And I look out the corner of my eye and I see my left wingtip kind of fall back and bang. You know, it reinflates and I'm like, oh, no, we're done.
Yep.
You know, straight spiral towards the ground to get out of the air as absolutely humanly, you know, fast as possible. But, you know, Kansas has that air. So now the other side of this, so, you know, slowing down would be good for you. Like you're saying, that's what you're trying to achieve better. Now, what do you feel like your strengths are? What is the best part of you flying?
I mean, man, it's hard to put into words. I mean, I feel like I've got more of an intuition about a lot of things, less of a, like if you ask me to describe something, I might not be able to articulate it in words or whatnot, but I have a strong intuition about, you know, how all these different aspects might, you know, come together, like the energy management aspect of it, like I can sort of picture it, as not
more of a visualization.
It's not inherently visual either. It's like I said, it's more of like I can just kind of sense, like when I should do something, or it's like when I was learning, you know, because I don't know. This is sort of a story that you remember. We had a student, and actually it was your student, so you'll remember this. And I think you were gonna kite him or tow him. And he said, well, how do I turn? And I'm like, okay, to me that, my strength is, I would never have that question because the intuition is just like, it's obvious how, you know, you would turn. That's a sort of extreme, I guess, comparison, but, so my strength is, I guess, just that intuition. And, because there'll be sometimes I don't really learn something, like I don't go out of my way to, like research it or whatever, you know, like in other aspects of life as well, you know, technical stuff. But I'll have an intuition around things. So I don't know if that answers the question.
It does, and I would have to agree with that. You're one of those guys that you don't spend a lot of time researching and whatnot. You're more of a doer, you know, and you'll approach stuff slowly.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, then you build into it, and then once you gain that skill, you'll build on that skill until your comfort is, you know, till it feels pretty natural for you.
Yeah, and not to say I would never do any research, but you know, so if I have zero, like, if I don't have any idea what I'm looking at, or whatnot. I'll have to get some amount of context. But once I've got that, you know, I build the intuition with just pieces of information around all sides, and then I think that's what leads me to make the decisions I'm making. Especially like in the air, sometimes you can't know how to make a decision until you've experienced it.
Yes.
But you
I
can
would
have an
agree.
intuition around what I might, you know, what would be the best decision here. I don't
Well, yeah, and you know, reaction is a big part of it too.
know. Yeah.
You know, and how you react. Because an overreaction can be just as dangerous
Or
as
yeah.
a underreaction.
Or just setting yourself up for a better, you know, not going in this scenario. So I don't have, so, you know, I can make sure that I'm not going to be in that position, and I don't have to, you know, put myself in a situation where I have to make a decision that's split second or whatever. Like, you know, getting altitude before you go over a tree line or whatever the case may be. So.
Well, and I mean, those are important things. I mean, we learn that stuff with the USPPA syllabus, but putting it into action, you know, making pilots understand how to fly, where to fly, and when to fly is just as important as all the work that it takes to get into the air.
Oh yeah.
You know, we don't fly over giant groups of trees. We don't fly over water without flotation devices. You know, we cross power lines in a certain way, and all of this is intricate to that factor of safety that, you know, PPG is considered, I'm not going to say it is, but it's considered one of the safest forms of personal flight, as long as you follow the rules.
Yeah.
You know, this last year, and you know, you're an accomplished pilot. This last 2 years, we've had a lot of public, dramatic crashes. You know, I'm not really going to mention any names or anything like that, but you know, we've had people fall out of the air at 90 feet testing a wing and how fast it goes. We've had people, you know, that were instructors end up in a parachutable stall. You know, there's been a few people killed, and generally that happens with them not following the rules and the guidelines.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you have any feedback there?
I mean, listen to your instructor. That's the best thing I could say, really, is listen to your instructor, listen to your better instinct. Again, just take it slow. You know, I don't know. It really comes down to if you don't care, then what's somebody gonna do? You know, if you don't care about listening to anybody, or you're just gonna have a bad time.
Well, and so what's your perspective on downwind, low altitude maneuvers?
I mean, anything, regardless of downwind, it just makes it worse, but anything low altitude maneuvers, so to speak, it depends on what you mean by maneuver. Like, I'm just as guilty as a lot of guys of, you know, doing a 180 fairly low. And you know, we've had a buddy had an issue with doing that, you know, right after takeoff. You know, I should have enough altitude. You do a 180 and your engine goes out, and then you don't have enough energy to do a proper landing. At least to turn around and not do a downwind landing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're getting ready to wrap it up here. So a couple things really quick.
Yeah.
So you're talking to the new student, somebody who's thinking about getting into PPG. What's the biggest thing, and we might have already gone over it, but what's the biggest thing that you would tell a new pilot or somebody sitting at home watching this and you know, wanting to get into the sport? What would be your biggest message?
Let's see, the biggest thing, there's really a lot of small things, but I mean, it kind of comes back to some of the things I've been saying, I think. I mean, if you're really, this is a little bit more technical side of it, but I think if you're really going to learn something, it's understanding the energy management side of it. Like, that's not really an introductory deal, but like once you're kind of in the air flying, you really need to understand that. Even for just normal flight, it's very important. But yeah, beyond that, again, just don't push your limits unless you're comfortable with, or at least too far. You got to at some point, like, increment.
There's still a progression.
Yeah.
But you're not recommending anybody to be at that edge all the
Don't
time.
go try to do a wing over if you're on your third flight. That kind of stuff. Like, just chill. There's always tomorrow. There's always next flight. I don't know if I have any other wise words of.
Well, that's actually pretty smart. Now, something else I want to mention really quick. So, you're wearing a t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
We actually have these on WichitaParamotor.com.
Yes, and that is me.
Yep.
So I'm the star of my own shirt.
Yeah, JL took that as you were flying over her. And that's still on your Charger.
Yes, yeah, this was my original wing. I think that's all my original gear.
Yep. And so overhead attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So, that shot was taken overhead. So I think that's a really, really good perspective. So I'll tell you, Jeff, I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
And, we've learned a lot from you. Really appreciate the time you've taken, man. Again, this is Wichita Paramotor Coast to Coast. We'll catch you next week. Sundays, 2 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
Y'all have a good one.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that?
That was good. I mean, I knew it would be.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, that is another episode of Wichita Paramotor Coast to Coast. We really, really appreciate Jeff Carlson for coming out and joining us, giving us his perspective. Again, we're going to do this on Sundays, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can also find this recording on Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, and hopefully we'll be on Pandora here real soon. So, especially go to Spotify, smash that like button. Hit the notifications, and don't forget to go to the YouTube channel, Wichita Paramotor, and subscribe, and then that way we can start doing some lives there. But thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Again, I'm Leo Kiesling, Jeff Carlson, Wichita Paramotor Coast to Coast. Have a great evening.
Have a good one.